Perfect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Miloš Mojstorović, and I'm Director for the city's Transportation and Mobility Department. We are here to speak about how we can make Southeast 15th Street east of Cordova a little more walkable, a little more safe. In terms of the background, a couple of years ago, back in 2023, we received some concerns from the residents in terms of pedestrian accommodations. We met with the residents, and the HOA went over the concerns, and immediately in response to those concerns, worked with Broward County Traffic Engineering to install some signage along Southeast 15th Street east of Cordova. There were about 3 sets of signs per direction that were installed just to point out to limited space for vehicles and pedestrians to use, and also make sure that drivers are aware of pedestrians' presence in travel lanes, given that Southeast 15th Street east of Cordova really doesn't have many sidewalks. Currently, there is about 3,400 feet between the intersection of Southeast 15th Street and Cordova to entrance to Fisheries. However, there is only about 900 feet of sidewalks, which are interrupted. They are not continuous, and they are either on the south or north side of the street. So ultimately in 2025, earlier this year, in January of 2025, our city commission directed us to engage a consultant to take a look at any feasible options that we could pursue in order to implement some level of pedestrian accommodations along Southeast 15th Street. And in response to that, we have hired Kimley Horn and Associates. So tonight with me, I have Artem, who is sitting next to me, and Johnny, he's on my left-hand side. And there are consultants who are helping us develop a couple of feasible alternatives in order to provide for a good balance between pedestrian accommodations and existing parking also needs along Southeast 15th Street. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Artem. So he's going to take us through presentation. And at the end, we will open it up for any questions that anyone in the room has and anyone online has. So, Artem, go ahead.
Yeah, help us with the next slide, please. So thank you, Miloš. So we're going to start with a slide that will provide a bit of an overview of our limits of study. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the area. We're looking at 15th Street. North is up facing the screen. And the limits of the study are from east of Cordova to more or less 15th Street Fisheries Marine. Miloš gave a bit of a background of how the project came to be. The scope that Kimley Horn is tasked with performing is to evaluate feasible alternatives, look at the corridor as a whole, and see what options could be proposed. Then obtaining public feedback. Today we have our second meeting. We presented about 3 weeks ago. Got some feedback, went back to the drawing board, and reevaluated some concepts. And I believe Miloš had some of the residents. Can you speak up a little? Then next step will be to prepare an opinion of probable construction costs.
Absolutely. If you want to come closer, I can help you with chairs. So that's fine. Let's go over that.
Prepare opinion of probable construction costs, which will help the city budget for the future project. And then finally document all of the evaluated alternatives, public feedback, and the opinions of probable construction costs. Next slide, please. So where we are in the schedule is we are evaluating alternatives. Today you'll see some of them. Those are not the only alternatives that we are evaluating, but these are the ones that we're considering as most feasible, given the feedback from the residents and the constraints that we have in the area. We had the first HOA meeting about 3 weeks ago on September 10th. Today we're getting additional feedback, and we are likely going to have another meeting at a to be determined date. And then the final documentation, final report should be available. And it is anticipated prior to calendar year of 2025. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this what you see on the screen now on the left-hand side, you see a engineering typical section of how the roadway looks like, and on the right-hand side, you see a field picture. So we have a 50-foot right-of-way that belongs to the city and 2 travel lanes of 10 feet. As most of you are familiar with the area, there is street parking, tandem parking, paved areas. And so those account for approximately 15 feet within the city's right. Next slide, please. So currently, there is no. So currently, there is sparse pedestrian facilities throughout the entire area. Sometimes they're on the south side, sometimes they're on the north side. And the proposed engineering typical section that we're looking to implement and we're studying for this project would add a path, a paved path on the south side of Southeast 15th Street. What you see here on the screen is the minimum dimension for the path to meet American with Disabilities Act is 3 feet. 4 feet will be a typical condition, and then 5 feet in areas where right of way allows us to provide more. Next slide, please. So these 2 graphics, they show how the path could look like in the future. So on the left-hand side, you see a cartoon of how it could look like, and on the right-hand side, you see implementation of a similar condition in a different area of the country. Looks like this. Here we have a roll plot of the project. It shows the overall project study, and what you can see in orange are existing sidewalks, right? So you can see there is some in the beginning, right next to Cordova on the south side, and then it kind of bounces to the north side as you go halfway through, and then there is an extended stretch with no sidewalk, and then by Fisheries Marina, it comes back to the south side again. So what we're trying to do is to maximize the use of those existing sidewalks and connect them with additional pedestrian path that we're studying with this project. Slide, please. All right, so we have identified areas where the proposed path is impacting existing parking. Everyone is during the first meeting, we've discussed that the 50-foot right of way is a very constrained area because there is tandem parking going on. And so we're trying to do our best to propose a path that would minimize impacts to the parking. So the first area of concern, or the first area where we're seeing impacts, is by Norwich Apartments condominium. Currently, there is an undeveloped area that you can see in light white color where the cars are parking. And in that scenario, we're proposing to reduce the path to the minimum, which will be the 3 feet, measured from the edge of the existing travelways, and to provide, the continuity of the path between the western limit of the project to the eastern limit of the project. In that case, what that would cause, and we tried creating a graphic on the right-hand side that shows how parking can potentially be rearranged within the private property in order to accommodate the 3-foot path. So that shift that would be required for the on-site parking will be about 1.5 feet to continue accommodating the tandem parking as it is. Next slide, please. This slide is about the area around 1472 condominium. We've had some feedback from the residents that were concerned that the proposed solution will not work in the area of their project. And so right on September 10th, we went out in the field right after the HOA meeting to verify the assumptions that we were making. And as you can see from field pictures, on the bottom of the screen, there is a white car parked right next to a grayish car. And we did take field measurements and created another view of the proposed condition, which you see on the right side of the screen, of how a potential 4-foot path will look like in that area. I don't know if you want to add anything to this one. Right, next slide, please. All right, so next area is Marina del Mar condo, and this is what we consider the most challenging area of the project. In this location, there is tandem parking that is occurring on both south and north side of Southeast 15th Street. So we are very limited in options of what can be proposed in that area. For that condition, we're proposing to use a 3-foot, again, reduced path. And again, we went out several times to measure the distances in the field to see if a potential 3-foot path is possible. And we did confirm that it could be done as long as the residents are parking close to each other and utilizing, the full width of the provided of the condominium's parking space, parking all the way to the wheel stops. This is an area that's along the south side in the vicinity of Mahalo and Azure Marine. In that area, we are actually working with quite a bit of green space, so adding a path there should not be an issue, and the width there will allow us to probably provide the greatest width attainable, which will be 5 feet. But the slide is here to illustrate that the green space here will be affected, will be an additional paved area. Next slide, please. Last area of anticipated impacts that we're going to present today is related to Caravel condominium. Again, the approach that we followed is pretty consistent. We were there several times during the days, same at night, during the peak hours as well as off-peak hours, when everyone was home. And what we've seen in this area, we did not identify any tandem parking. But we did notice that in Google Maps, there was a scenario or a day where people were double parking. And in this area, if we reduce the path to 3 feet, we still will not be able to accommodate a tandem parking. So fortunately, there is a resolution for this condition as well, and we will show it on the next slide.
I ask one simple question,
Can you please hold up at the end?
but it has to do with that slide.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Next
we'll
slide.
get back to it if you don't.
Next slide. So in this scenario, we were able to utilize the north side of Southeast 15th by creating a path on the north side. We would need to introduce 2 mid-block crossings and potentially some traffic calming devices to slow cars down ahead of those crossings from both directions. So we did ask everyone to provide feedback last time we had the presentation. We're asking everyone to do the same using the barcode. Use your phone to scan the barcode and to answer a few questions. If you go to the next slide, please. These are the 4 questions that we're asking everyone to answer. You can also go to menti.com and use the survey code. It should take you to the same location as the QR code that you can scan with your phone.
You leave that up till later so we can scan it or give us paperwork or something? Oh, it's on that. Okay, thanks.
So we will come back to questions and we will come back to the survey in case someone didn't have an opportunity to to take their phones out. But as far as next step goes, we're here, presenting tonight to get feedback. But ultimately, we will end up with a design documentation memorandum or to simplify it, a report with findings for the project. This report will include, feedback from the community. We will include write-ups on recommendation of alternatives, existing potential impacts to existing utilities in the areas, opinion of probable construction costs, and we'll also document all of our field reviews and field findings. Next slide, please. So with that, we'll take questions. I guess we'll go.
And if you don't mind, Jerry, let's go back to QR code. So that's displayed in here. So anyone online or in the room can scan a QR code. If you need us to pass along one of these flyers, we can do that as well. So you can scan it and provide your.
Is it the same code from my postcard?
Might be. That one might take you to the website, but it should have a link on our webpage also for that.
Can't we just ask the question?
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Oh,
That's what.
you showing the last one, Parabel. Right? You're saying the cars you went out and checked. You're checking it now. Have you checked it this season when these people come down for the winter also?
That's a great
There
one.
is an influx of cars and people down here in South Florida, in Florida since the fifties.
Yeah, so we conducted different observations during different times of day. I actually went out there one of the evenings myself also and tried.
Season.
Yeah, let me just run it through. All right, so we understand that based on observations that we have made over the last couple of weeks, right, and couple of months, we did not observe tandem parking taking place there. Okay, that's number one. But what alarmed us is that through review of Google aerials, we did see tandem parking happening.
Yeah.
And the moment that we realized that, we developed a second alternative, which is taking that path from south side to the north side of that condo in order to accommodate for that. But I'll tell you also this, that at that location, my car is the shortest car you can have. It's a two-seater pretty much. I parked it at the bumper of the car that was already parked there in a proper fashion. And my front bumper was exactly at the edge of the travel lane. Meaning that anything that is larger than my car, even two Honda Accords, might not be able to legally park there within available parking space. So that's the feedback. But again, I'm saying we recognize that and we're creating alternatives that is taking path to the north side, because north side has a landscape area that can be used. We just have to cross pedestrians on the north side. And that would require some traffic calming measures, some signage, some pavement markings and so forth.
That's why I asked you at the last meeting, can you take from either side? You said you have 50 feet.
Yes,
Right of right of way.
yeah.
Take a little bit from here, a little bit from there to alleviate.
That's what we're actually doing. So we are maximizing use of existing sidewalks wherever they are present. We're looking at the field conditions, utility conflicts, conflicts with the landscape, streetscapes, and ultimately seeing what would be the best solution and minimizing that width of the path from to a minimum of 3 feet. That we cannot go less than that in order to be compliant with the ADA standards.
In the last meeting, you said it could either be done or not done. That came out of your mouth.
It can be done.
No, meaning we could have the project or not.
That's right. That's right. We're still not saying the project needs to move forward. So
Shut up.
yeah, so, and I'm gonna take you through that as well. So this is only feasibility study. Feasibility study meaning, hey, we're trying to explore whether something can be done or it cannot be done, right? We are saying, yes, it can be done, right? But it's gonna be, yeah, we're saying that based on engineering analysis, it can be done.
Because you don't live on the street.
Correct.
Are you a city official?
Yeah, but
Wait, if I may, because I gotta go, I got another point.
yes,
I sit here and I listen to all these consultants that have no idea what's going on.
all right.
You put shit on the south side of the street, they're gonna sue the north side of the street. You put shit on the north side of the street, they're gonna sue the south side of the street. You do it on 15th Street without doing it on 14th Street or 13th Street, we're gonna sue the city. That street has been like that for 50 or 60 years,
Yep.
right? Cars have encroached on a public way for 50 or 60 years. The city has never enforced the regulations. Now, taking property away is gonna reduce the value of the property. Just because some knuckleheads are afraid to get hit, they should walk in the day, walk opposite the traffic, use a flashlight at night, take their friggin' headphones off and pay attention. You know, we have dumbed down.
Screen in their face all the time, walking with the screen in their
Yeah,
face all the
We've
time.
dumbed down society and the rest of us are supposed to pay for it.
We have to
No,
pay for it.
if you try to do this, I guarantee you, the street will sue the city. You're wasting money on a consultant. Any clown can see what's going on. And unless you enforce the rules that are down there, you ain't gonna enforce the rules anyway. Well, you're gonna put the sidewalk in, people are gonna park on a damn thing. People are still gonna walk in the street. You're gonna waste another couple of $1 million doing something. You guys can't even fix a pipe, paint the center of the intersection without tearing it up in a week. When you can do that,
Yeah.
we'll talk.
Yeah, so I appreciate your feedback, number one, and I'm gonna cover a couple of points, okay? So when it comes to the need for the pedestrian accommodations, it's a real need, all right? Because
On all the other streets,
Yeah, let me-
it's too
let me
late.
just- let me
Those
just-
guys have
Yeah.
money. You ain't gonna do it
Yeah,
there.
but if you wouldn't interrupt me, please, I didn't interrupt. you,
Sure,
so I would appreciate
I'm
the
sorry.
same, Yeah. So the need for pedestrian accommodation came from the public, did not come from us. Southeast 15th Street is a little different than 14 and anything else because we have the Fisheries, which is a busy restaurant, we have a dock as well. All right, so it's a little busier street than anything else, all right? So we didn't come to residents came to us and we're doing this in response to community. Community concerns. We're not saying that shovel needs to go in the ground at all. We're saying, hey, these are the options. This is what we can do. That's why we had public meeting number one right now, and that's why we're gonna have a public meeting number two. And that's why we have a webpage where anyone can say and state their
No,
opinion.
nobody's gonna
Well,
say.
Yeah, but let me just finish. So anyone can say their opinion and their preferences. The city might not come to do anything without the support, and we don't want to do anything without the support of the community. Now, to your point of enforcement, I'm not sure exactly what you're pointing out to, or you're basically what your concern is. But I'll tell you that what is happening, you're completely right that the city is in that way for the last number of years, which I don't actually know whether it's 50 or 60, but for many years it's like that, right? The parking has organically developed in a tandem parking, all right? So if we speak with our legal department will say, hey, whatever is there in terms of one row of parking spaces, that's okay, they can have that. The second row that is happening unorganically should not be happening.
Then just enforce the rules
it
and
is-
save us money.
Yeah, it is happening unorganically. We understand the need from the community and we're trying to balance now between allowing that continue to happen and providing safe pedestrian accommodations, right? Without having to enforce it, all right? And what we're saying also is that we would not affect any parking in a way that is happening right now. So our intent in here is to get you something that is not a sidewalk. The moment that we start raising the street is the moment that you lose parking, all right? We're saying, hey, we're trying to put the path the least width possible that would accommodate pedestrians, but also continue to allow tandem parking in a fashion that has been happening for the last number of years, so that property values are not affected, that your parking capacity is not affected, and that there is minimal impact to landscape and streetscape and whatnot. So that is the goal. The only impact that we have identified is with the 11 parking spaces at Norwich, which would have to be simply shifted by 1.5 feet, which is about this much south within their site, if they're to continue parking in tandem fashion after potentially the path is implemented, all right? The feedback from our legal department would be that if we are legally to establish parking on the side of the Southeast 15th Street, which is currently happening within the city right away, the proper way to do so would be doing parallel parking, not tandem parking. But we're not going there. We are here to talk about parking needs, pedestrian needs, and how we can basically check both boxes.
The city right away is from telephone pole to telephone pole, right? People encroach on that every day and every property. The city doesn't enforce the rules and the regulations. You got 300 foot, as the consultant says, of sidewalks, all of which are being parked on. Nobody's ever given a ticket for parking on a sidewalk. The only place you can't park on a sidewalk is the new condo that went up there because they put curbs and greenery, right?
Well, I will tell you this,
And the rule used to be when you remodel, you knock it down like they're doing one right next door to me. I'm guessing they gotta put a sidewalk. I think this was in the past. But nobody uses a sidewalk. So they'll walk in the middle of the street with their headphones on in the middle of the night with their dogs on a leash that goes halfway across the road. Those are the people that you should educate. Tell them to get the hell out of the road.
so which part of the southeast 15th Street do you?
North side, which I'm glad you're doing it on the south side. But they shouldn't do it on any side.
No, on any side. And also, you're bringing up my building. It's the whole block, sir.
No, I'm, the only reason,
whole block you're affected.
I will let you finish. Yeah.
I can finish.
Yeah, so the catch with your building is that anywhere else, we can put 3-foot pad without having to disturb any tandem parking in the area. What happens
differently?
Yeah, but what happens with your building is simply your on-site parking spaces are a little further north as compared to anywhere else. And in order for you to continue parking in a tandem fashion, we would have to shift that by 1.5 feet.
Don't even worry about my building. 2 buildings away from me. The answer is, you let these guys.
Yeah, but I will tell you, if I may, there was another member who is presently here also tonight, who had similar concerns at their building and told that we could not do what we were suggesting that we can do, right? So I met in field with that person. We took some measures, we parked vehicles, we took photos, we took videos, and we ended up agreeing that it's feasible. So I would rather look at the facts and data, and if we have to meet separately, go out there and measure space exactly building to building, that's not a problem at all. But I wouldn't want to generalize and say that it doesn't work here and it's not going to work there. So we're looking at the site per site data. And I will tell you also this, it is not going to be perfect. Absolutely. If we decide, if the community wants us to proceed with something, I want you to understand that it's not going to be perfect whatsoever. And the reason, let me just finish. So why do I say that it's not going to be perfect? Because at any of these locations, if we have anyone who is not properly parking, all right?
Yeah.
So for example, I'm gonna use 1472 as an example, right? And that is the one, if you wouldn't move, if you wouldn't mind moving a couple of slides down.
I live there.
Yeah.
Just want everybody to know
Yeah,
Is that your
I had-
car?
so
And
You need a smaller car.
No,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
my car.
go back a little more, where there is a gray pad, a little more. Okay, so this is the one. So there was a concern that we might not be able to put tandem parking in here, right? And we're like, okay, let's double check this. So we went the same night after public meeting. It was about 8 PM or 9 PM in here. But anyway, the point is that the great vehicle is Honda Accord. It was already parked there, but the vehicle was properly parked where the front wheel or the front axle was at the wheel stop. There was no gap in between the wheel and the wheel stop, right? The moment that you do not come with your wheel to the wheel stop, you're losing whatever distance you're losing, right? In this case, there is zero distance lock, right? Then the second vehicle is Subaru, I'm not sure what the model is, but it's a crossover, right? Or a little SUV, right? And even with those two parked in tandem, we still had 4 feet in the back. But the vehicles were parked properly. Number one, first vehicle was parked properly. Number two, second vehicle was parked within 7 inches, 6 to 8 inches behind the first car. So if there was a loss of space, and we're talking inches in here, all right? If there was a loss of space with first vehicle not parking in the wheel stop, second vehicle leaving the gap, then that white car would be parking in the middle of the pathway here, right? So it's basically, it's a balance in here, unfortunately. So we can do the pad, but it would be for residents to park properly and to be mindful that they might be obstructing the path. And that's why I'm saying it's not gonna be perfect. If you have any vehicles that are larger than this, let's say you have two 150s parking tandem, they might be in a travel lane also.
They don't fit.
But that does not mean that we should not proceed with the entire project just because
They have to sell
in
the car.
2 out of 150 rows, there is an obstruction because you're providing accommodation for 98 or 99% of the distance. But anyway, that's my opinion. We're here to hear yours.
Say something? I live at Marina Del Mar. Can you pull that one up? Me and Mike both live there.
The next one.
The next one.
And we are mindful of some comments and
Okay.
questions from the Zoom, so we'll get back to them.
So we have a Lexus and a Volkswagen Jetta. Those are both very standard cars.
They go right up to.
Their bumper goes all the way out to the white line.
There's not three.
There isn't. And those aren't two F-150s. They are two small, a sports car and a Jetta, like.
Yeah, so we can meet with you and we can measure space again, we can
I mean,
test
I
your
measured,
vehicle.
I saw
You can
them,
measure all you want.
I measured. I
Look at the
measured.
pictures,
You see the telephone pole? The city has a right of way, I believe, to take anything they want outside that telephone pole without even talking to us. But the city has allowed us to use these spots,
I
and
know.
people have bought condos
I know.
predicated on the fact that they can put two cars in, right? They don't ticket those cars, so you assume that it's okay. Now they wanna go and take all that space, because a couple of people walk in the middle of the road.
So everything, just a moment, so I have to correct the record in here. So everything that you have said up until the last point was completely accurate. We are not coming, no, we are not coming to take space away. We're trying to accommodate and put the pad simply a market and improve it in order for pedestrians to use it. We're not saying that vehicles will go away. Ultimately, if the project moves forward and you guys decide to continue parking on the pad, we might not be enforcing that as well. But I'm gonna tell you.
That's a right. It's not.
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you. And I cannot promise you that we will or will
Lines
not.
there.
I
You're
can-
gonna take it.
Yeah, but I cannot promise you also that there might not be additional time sometime in the future with the right of way, right?
Where is the emergency here? Why now? Why
Can I-
does this,
can I
why can't
follow
you
up
fix
on
the rest of the
Yeah.
5,000 projects
Can
you
I,
have
can I
going on?
follow up on that?
First.
My name is Marilyn Romano. I'm the president of the homeowners association. And we had this presentation a couple of weeks ago, the first public discussion of this. And I have two questions for you, Louis. Congratulations. I mean, this is a tough one. So you're doing.
It's
you're
not
doing a
tough,
good
stop.
job. All right, but wait a minute. I have two questions. How many emails or telephone calls did you get from people on 15th Street demanding sidewalks? You got one guy who's been on a vendetta for 2 years. And he used to be a member of the Civic Association. He quit because we did not believe that there was a groundswell of demand for a sidewalk.
And there's
And-
obviously a groundswell of rejection for it.
Well, there was certainly not a groundswell of desire for it. We put in speed humps. We changed the speed limit. We put up the signs for pedestrians. Thank you very much. Milos was very influential in putting up 6 signs to say, watch out for pedestrians. We did everything we could to make that street safer. And there was not a groundswell of demand for sidewalks. Nevertheless, here we are, okay? Apparently, the pressure force got to you guys this is good because this shows you the problems. This shows the problems very clearly. And one of the problems that I want to point out to you, if you go back to the slide that takes the mid-block crossing, where you're proposing to put the pathway on the north side, there are big old trees there. There are beautiful landscape trees.
within that
Not within that, so you're only on the grassy,
Yes,
grassy part.
only
Okay.
grassy that has a concrete type of,
Very good, because when I saw that, I said, my God, the trees, so we're not worried about the trees.
Well, you know, that's because my friend fell there and broke 6 ribs.
Yeah, well, okay, where is it? I mean, this idea of crossing at mid-block,
yes.
Milos, crossing back and forth mid-block. I mean, talk about safety and security.
It's
It
not
just,
that many.
the crossing back and forth is like, to me, is not a really good idea, okay? So, and this is new, we didn't see this at
We did not.
the association. All right, so,
Yep.
again, not 100% hysterical about that. Again, I just want to point out that there is a problem with pedestrians, and it's probably the pedestrians are part of the problem, but it's just the physicality of the situation. And so I'm concerned that we are going through this exercise, which is not bad, because now we see what the problems are. We wouldn't have seen it if we didn't do this work.
That's right.
But, I just think that the overwhelming sentiment on the street is not to go in this direction. I have not seen people with signs saying, we demand a sidewalk, okay?
I got a question. What about 15th Street on the other side of Port Oval? You know what? Get those mothers to stop parking in the middle of the road when they pick up their kids.
Be careful
That'll
now.
solve stuff.
So just, if I may respond, one other question. So one of your concerns was, related to mid-block, crossings. So what we're proposing here, if you see those purple type of squares, those would be new speed humps in order to calm the traffic down before entering the crosswalk, and then it would be payment markings and signage, maybe RVs as well, depending really on what the most appropriate is. This is conceptual right now, but we'll make sure that we should proceed that we provide for.
I appreciate that, and sometimes you can even do the lit sidewalks. I mean, you could spend a fortune making those crossovers as safe as is humanly possible, and it's not humanly possible, okay? So I'm very concerned that this showed up, but we hadn't had an opportunity to look at it before. But this is the process, you go through a process, and you do reiterations, and so again.
So as long as you're okay with the concept, we have another public meeting, that's why we're here, so this is first public meeting, really, there is another one, so if you have any concerns, you can communicate already to us, and anyone else on the call or here in the room, and we can tweak it, right, and through engineering design, which this is not engineering design, this is just putting concept together on the paper, we would make sure that there is proper level of operational safety for pedestrians and traffic.
I gotta go, but I want to make one more point, then I won't piss off anyone else. If you don't do it all the way up to First Avenue, all the way up to Federal or whatever that next street is, if you don't do it all the way up 15th Street, piss all those people off, including the
We
school.
want it all the way up to
Then,
15th Street.
then what you're doing to these people is unheard of. You should fire the consultant, save us money, fix the friggin' things that you built in the
Yeah,
middle
fix
of
the
the
other
road.
5,000.
Continue to put your pipe in and not worry about the sidewalks unless you're gonna go all the way up. Because what you're doing in a small part of it, you're leaving the rest of it the same, so you're ignoring it. There's a guy yelling down here, but there's nobody yelling up there.
So let me just point out to something before you leave, so we were directed to look into this back in January of this year by city commission, right? So there were complaints. And ultimately, the city commission said, hey, but let me just finish. So
There's been more.
how did we get to city commission to begin with?
I don't know. How's that one guy have so much influence?
I'm gonna tell you how.
That's what I want to know.
So we were at the city commission. I just wanna make sure that
Sorry.
I got everyone's attention. So we were at the city commission to present on the effort that is called sidewalk master plan, which was the first time ever that the city was looking into where we have sidewalks, where we do not have sidewalks, and how we basically cover the gap. It is a very data-driven methodology and approach to basically show you where you have different activities, pedestrians, schools, transit stops, stores, and so forth and so on, where you can expect large number of pedestrians. And you depend on the sidewalks, right? So that's how conversation started at city commission and then basically turned into, hey, Southeast 15th Street. Let's, we know that we're missing sidewalk and we'll look and see what can be feasible. Because really, sidewalk master plan, whenever is adopted later this year, will show you, hey, there is a need in this area or there is no need in this area whatsoever, based on data driven methodology, right? Based on facts, all right? But it's not gonna tell you whether something is feasible or not. So each one of these areas will have to go back and say, hey, this one is feasible. Yes, it's needed, it's feasible. Needed, not feasible. Not needed, feasible. No need for it, right? So.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that I'm after her, then the next.
And what you would
Because we have been waiting too.
we all have.
Okay, but we're in the
Peacefully,
order that we were.
That guy had 3 turns, you've
Yeah,
had one.
I've never
I've
had
had
none.
Zero. You're the.
I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna,
Okay,
yeah,
Get an
if you don't mind, I'm gonna conduct it, and I will, let the back row.
Okay, my concern, and I just wanna say, Milos came out and met with me. I felt he was very reasonable, very respectful of all of my concerns. I have to say that. But my question is this, the street slopes down and functions as a swale. And I have a big concern with the flooding, because when we had the flood 2 years ago, you know, I was in water up to my knees on 15th Street. So when you put in this 3-foot pedestrian path, I'm assuming it has to be level if people are gonna be walking on it, they're not gonna be walking sideways. Number one, how is that gonna affect the swale effect, which we need to keep, because there's a drain right in front of my complex that is very important to us. The other thing is, if we're backing out and you're making some of it level, is that gonna be like a sharp change? You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying?
Very valid question. So when it comes to the drainer, so the purpose in here would be to take care of pedestrian path and make sure that's per standard, right? But we recognize through field observations, there is some water collection around the drains and within that swale area. So what we're gonna have to do if we proceed with design, we will have to engage our public works department and see what kind of drainage improvements we would have to do. I'm gonna tell you, that would be pending discussion with them. I don't think that we would be looking at anything major and installing additional drains, but making sure that what's out there right now, it's working, right? So to answer your question, in terms of the slope, in order for anything to be compliant, it cannot be more than 2% slope. So it's very minor slope, just to allow for drainage of the water. Now, other question that you have is whether it's gonna be rough condition or not. No, that would have to be sorted out. So we would
Because
need,
even when it rains now,
Yeah.
we have a hard rain for 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah.
That swale gets
So
pretty
it
much
looks
filled
like-
up right away.
it looks like that there is a water ponding here and drainage structure is there. So it looks like that the low point is here where the water is and not where the drainage structure is, in some cases. That's what.
You take those pathways and you put them on all the green areas,
Right.
those green areas are draining the streets.
Right.
You're right.
And
You're
that-
absolutely right.
Yeah, so that's my concern.
Yeah.
And all, but the other concern I have is, I mean, is there any estimate of what would be the cost for this proposal?
So consultant is working on that. I think that by public meeting number 2, we should have it, but so far, can we share some
I
level of
think, I
ballpark?
think we can, because there's a lot of questions about drainage. I think that's.
Yes.
So drainage is one of the more expensive items that.
You are gonna do drainage?
So.
Part of this project, you gotta do drainage?
So I think that we would have to consider, so. Yeah, so the scope of feasibility was just looking at the path, right? But through field observations after the rain, we also noticed that there is some ponding of the water. So whenever we start engineering design, we will have to see what the drainage looks like, what existing conditions look like, and what kind of improvements we would have to do to make sure whatever is out there is properly draining the street.
So you have made a decision on drainage.
We have not.
If the drainage is installed with this project, it will likely be to compensate for the loss of the drain. And everything that you see here, in the picture on the right or picture on the left, that is just a grading exercise, right? So the grading exercise would require for the path to be built at a certain slope. And for the elevations to line up in certain ways so that the water flows towards the.
Is that the drainage structure there?
There is somewhere, each property has a drainage structure somewhere in there, but
It was a
It
big
doesn't
problem,
always-
Marina Del Mar, when you go back to that picture. The puddle was right in front of the drain.
Yeah, there we go.
It's not
Yeah,
drainage.
we've seen things like that.
Yeah, Marina.
I am down.
But so
Thank
the
you.
point, so just so the points that Amy brought up, I was gonna ask because I know that on our end, there was several points, but this is one, and on our end, of which we wish you were doing this to the gentleman's point,
She
she's
doesn't
sitting
live
there.
in this.
She lives further.
Right, but we're very interested because we don't understand why they didn't do it all the way, like these people have brought up here, to, Federal Highway. Granted that some of the communities have sidewalks, but a lot of them don't, and there's children that live in all the communities. There's pedestrians up and down all the way from US West, all the way down to the fisheries, so that's one. The other, drainage was the other, which you guys already covered because we flooded, I think, worse than you guys, right, Amy?
Yeah.
We were like, really, it was like a swimming pool in our area, we flooded really bad. So we want to make sure, and we think that's because of all the buildings, including ours, that had taken away rain. So, and that's where the water drains, right? So then the other thing that I wanted to bring up was, so those are the two, then the third is that, one that you had where you could cross back and forth. That is the issue that all of us have. So maybe one person complained on your end, but I will tell you on our end, a lot of people probably called the city in the last few years complaining about sidewalks in that from, our area, from the west side of 15th Street, towards US one, from Cordova West, right? The Federal Highway, sorry, I just one other time. What was that? So my question is, Was those some of the calls that were taken into account, was those calls, not just recent or from Cordova East? And that pathway that you talked about, that you crossed with the purple, calming traffic effect, whatever. Those are the issues that we have right now, because we have to go from one side of the street to cross to the other side of the street where there's sidewalks. Or where it's safer because there's big puddles, there's, it's just not even. So these are the issues that we have, and the reason why, to answer the gentleman that talked about people going through the streets, that's one of the reasons why people walk in the streets, because you can't walk on the stairs.
So just if I might respond to one of your questions at least, which has to do with east of Cordova versus west of Cordova. So I have to go back and see what prioritization through sidewalk master plan, which is again data-driven methodology. So Southeast 15th Street east of Cordova was tier number 2. West of Cordova, I have to check, but I think it was a lower tier. Before 2, we have tier 1. Sidewalk master plan identified that we have over 500 miles of existing sidewalks and about more than 430 miles of gaps. So we almost have as many gaps as we have sidewalks. Now, assuming that, and when I say gaps, gap is on both sides of the street, right? So let's say we are looking at Southeast 15th Street, I'm gonna say, hey, you have a gap of 3,400 feet times 2, for example, 1 mile, right? But assuming that we do not install sidewalks on both sides of the street, right, from the planning perspective and budgetary perspective, it would be more than 200 miles of sidewalk still, but we have to go through feasibility and design depending on level of complexity, right? Based on some of the costs these days, your sidewalks can be about $500,000 plus per mile, depending on complexity, right? So that tells you how much funding we would need in order to build everything, right? So we're trying to prioritize little by little. We have very limited funding. Annually, there was a geo bond that the city commission approved also on September 3rd for $105 million, and about $27 million is dedicated to roadway and sidewalk projects and improvements. But we basically have very little funding and a lot of need, all right? And that's why when we are going through priorities. So just making a call and saying, I need a sidewalk, we appreciate it's valid and we appreciate your perspective, but we have to make sure, but we have to make sure that data shows and supports, and basically based on number of different tools that we have used, that it really makes sense to invest a dollar in a place A versus place B.
We understand, but I just want to make it clear, it was not just for our end, we just, I'm curious why our end wasn't.
Yeah.
But what we do believe, we want what's best for the whole street, for the entire community, not just for.
We appreciate it.
This is nice to
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
The guy in the blue, he's been waiting.
But I don't think that these gentlemen never asked a question, so.
A lot of this pathways, a
Yes.
lot of these, I guess, sidewalks.
They're not sidewalks, so we're looking at the install. If this is a roadway, we're basically extending the roadway at the same grade. We're not elevating the sidewalk.
And they are mostly right next to the travel lane.
They are all next to the travel lane, right next to the edge of travel lane.
What does that make it any more safer than what it is now?
Because
Yes.
you're not sharing a space, you're not, so Southeast 15th Street has 2 10-foot lanes. 10-foot lane is the minimum width of the travel lane that you can have for through lanes, right? You can go down to 9 feet for the turn lanes at intersections, okay? And that's even, based on judgment and volumes and type of vehicles and stuff, right? So minimum, absolute minimum that you can have is 10 feet, right? So now the difference is, do you share those 10 feet with the vehicle pedestrian, or you provide dedicated space to pedestrian of 3 feet? So is pedestrian in my way, or he is right outside of my way, right? So that's the difference.
Yeah, but right now,
Yes,
and right now, we're walking right next to this, to the road. And it's going to be the same thing once this pathway is done, correct?
I'm not sure that is.
We're gonna be walking, once the pathway is done, we're gonna be walking right next to the travel, lane, correct?
You would be walking next to
Like
the
the
travel.
picture shows.
Yes, you will.
Is it gonna be like a bicycle lane in other communities?
Yes,
Like a bicycle lane with a white line.
yes.
So that doesn't make it any safer than what it is now.
Would you mind
A
going?
white line doesn't make me any safer.
Okay, so there is a different alternative in here. And if you would like to be, for us to create safer facilities, there is an option for that. It would require more space, but it would likely mean that we basically have to go and remove all tandem parking. Because the city has 15 feet of right of way. We can create a 15-foot shared use path, we can do a landscape, we can do parallel parking, we can do, options are limitless in here with the 15 feet. Options are not limitless with 3 or 4 feet that we're trying to work with while balancing pedestrian needs and vehicular needs. So if the community wants something better, we can do it. But it would require removal of about over 100 parking spaces that are.
My point is, this is useless because it's not gonna make anybody safer.
So.
You know, I walk the
Yeah.
street just about every day, and I walk quite away from the road because there's space to do so.
So I would say that it would bring some a level of method to what's happening out there right now. From the standpoint of, once you improve the path, you basically get stable and flat surface that is ADA compliant, right? You get better drainage, you get delineation so that I as a pedestrian know that this is my path. There is a sign there that shows that this is my path and space for me to use. And there is a sign for the driver also to understand what they might be expecting. And there is also understanding on the side of people who are parking that they should stay away from the path. So it's a dedicated space. It's officially established dedicated space for pedestrians versus what is happening right now. So that would be basically the difference. But again, it doesn't have to be done if the community doesn't want it. And if community wants something better, there are different options also.
I don't think anybody in the room wants it, so if you want that for feedback,
I see.
you got it.
And I would love to, at the end,
We will talk your ear off all the way out the door, when we go, just to reinforce it.
Yeah.
But can you go to Marina Del Mar?
So at some point, we're gonna have to take some questions from online. I'm not sure how many people are online, and I want to make sure that they have opportunity.
You know what?
Or do you want to ask them to type their question?
We have type questions.
Okay.
Here.
Can you go to Marina Del Mar, ask some questions to that?
What slide is that, Milos?
Excuse me?
One before. On the board.
Keep going.
On the board.
Probably one more. That's it, right there. Now, these were taken off peak time and you still see both angles, you see tandem parking. There's not 3 more feet between that white line and the bumper. It's not there. So you're telling them you gotta go buy a smaller vehicle.
No one said that. We did not say that.
Then how do you get 3 feet between the bumper of the truck and the white line?
Okay, so what that photo does not show is how the vehicle number 1, which looks like it's some type of Mazda, is parked. If that Mazda has 6 inches or a foot.
That's not true.
Okay,
I-
okay.
that's
No,
what I
no, no.
measured,
I'm
it's
making,
not true.
I'm making assumption. I do not know.
I'm trying to tell you, assumptions inaccurate.
I do not know for these specific vehicles, okay?
I
The way-
do, I measured and it's about a foot that
Okay.
they have.
But the point-
The other
the
one,
point-
the Volkswagen, they're all the way up, they got
Yeah. But the point is this, I've told you already, it's not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be perfect. You have 3,400 feet in here. And if community doesn't want it, that's fine. If the community wants it, then we put it, all right?
Okay.
And in that particular,
You already
and
said that.
yeah, in that
I'm
particular,
just asking you, how do you get 3 feet?
I'm
There's only
getting
one.
there, I'm
Okay.
getting there. So if we install the pad, and in this particular case, for some reason, there are 2 large vehicles, they're sticking out. The path will be obstructed for the distance of 6 or 7 feet, which is the width of those vehicles. But you will still have 3,394
You know what?
feet to walk along. That's basically,
You know,
that's
it's
basically.
outside, you take that line, the parking police come by, they go down to the boat ramp. If they're parked over that line, they're getting a ticket. You know that. If you're suggesting that they're gonna just ignore that, I mean, you're insulting us.
So
You put a line.
my goal is not to
you have a
insult anyone.
walkway for pedestrians and they're parking into it.
Yeah.
You know they're getting a ticket.
So I will tell you this. I'm Director of Transportation, Mobility and Parking Department, okay? Parking Department as well. I can tell you that we are not coming to ticket anyone currently on Southeast 15th Street.
Yeah.
Now, currently,
Listen,
but I
you know
will
what?
tell you this, we have basically directions that we receive from elected officials and our bosses. It hasn't come to us, and I will tell you this, that whether you select or not select Pat, are completely up to the public. We want to make sure that we do everything and anything that we can do that is in alignment with your desires as a community, right? But implementing PAD, I do not expect it to trigger any enforcement action, meaning we never enforce it. Now we implement the PAD, we're gonna enforce it. Yeah, we wanna work with the
I don't
community.
believe you. I don't believe you at all.
Yeah,
And when you say I'm for the government and I'm here to help you and I'm gonna paint the line, says you can't park there, but I ain't gonna enforce it. Well, why paint the line if you're not gonna? It's like putting up a no parking sign that says, I'm not gonna enforce that. Well, why put up a no parking sign?
well,
Second,
yeah, but we could do that.
we're gonna go round and round, because you're not gonna, I don't trust you to say, I'm gonna paint the line and ignore when you're parking there. The second thing is,
Have a good night.
why'd you pick the south side versus the north side of the street?
I'm just not throwing over your way.
You take this one about the enforcement, or you wanna start with the enforcement? Because technically the enforcement can.
I can't hear a word you say.
I'm saying the enforcement can happen now, because you're parking in the city's right.
Right.
Right?
Well,
Enforcement could happen now.
Yes,
Side of the
no.
street.
Okay.
right away,
that's-
the
that's part
city has a
one of the
right to
question.
use it when they want it, but if you're not using it, it is the property owner's property.
It is illegal. Currently, we actually spoke with our legal department, city attorney's office. And the feedback from the city attorney's office is that this was never approved.
Right.
We do not see any, through development agreements, we do not see any of this parking being approved. It is happening. If we are to legalize it ever, the proper way would be to establish parallel parking. That was my due diligence to do before I came to you, so that we understand what is the standard.
Wait. I told you to go.
Yeah.
To find out the legal status there. And I can, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're full of shit.
What is it?
They are full of doo-doo.
So legal
Okay.
opinion.
Because, of course, that's their opinion. Of course, they're gonna say that. We knew they were gonna say that. But you try and enforce that, you'll have a revolution on you.
That's why we're not enforcing, and that's why we're working with communities. So we want to make sure that you guys get a cake and eat it too, as they say, right? So we try, anyway.
To enforce is in the current situation where cars are parked over the line and obstructing the right of way. That's what you should be enforcing, but you don't do that either.
And the
But
speeding.
Madam Marilyn, so let me ask you this now.
Yeah.
So someone just said, are you forcing me to buy now a different car?
Yes.
If people have two F-150s or 350s, we basically, and they park back to back.
If they go over the line in the travel lane, you should be enforcing that. You should be ticketing
So
them.
we will communicate to our city manager's office and district commissioner and see whether they would like us to do exactly that. We're trying to educate,
For that.
we're trying to educate them.
Listen, people love their cars, people need their cars, okay? And you recognize this because you are going out of your way to figure out
Yes.
how to limit the impact on the cars, which is admirable, okay? But as you can see from the read the room, people are not enthusiastic about this. And what it does is it limits people's options. We had a guy here last night who has two handicap cars, okay? Two handicap parking spaces. They're handicapped.
We talked about it.
Okay? They're gonna be over that line. You know they're gonna
No,
be over that
actually,
line.
they're okay. They have 2 miles.
Oh, thank God for that.
We actually went and measured it.
Thank
Yeah,
God for
we
that
measured.
because they're handicapped, and they need those cars. But there will be somebody else on this street
Yes.
who wants to buy a Ford truck. And what you're telling me.
There is actually a few already.
One right there.
And I'm telling you that because I'm going through this with my condominium. We're trying to limit large cars in the condominium parking garage. And you should see how praised people get when you tell them you cannot buy a pickup truck. You cannot go out and buy one of those, what do they call those truck cars?
The cyber
The
truck.
cyber trucks, because they don't fit.
I see.
And I say, it's my God-given right to buy a car that I want.
No,
So I understand where you're coming from, and you're doing an admirable job, all right? Although there are lots of open issues here, like drainage and things like that. But I just don't see the groundswell of demand for this.
So if you don't mind, I will shift over to online questions.
Before we run, on that picture, where the line is there, where it's already paved, is your plan just to paint another line, or are you gonna repave that?
Depending on where we get to the actual analysis of design.
Speak up, darling.
Depending what the crosswalk will be, if it meets ADA
It's like
compliance.
that's all paved already, so
Understood. If it meets the ADA requirement in terms of cross slope, then we would leave it alone. If it does not, then we would have to do something about it and it will require to mill the existing asphalt and resurface it.
Who's gonna pay for this?
Cindy.
Is it time for us to be able to speak who are on the phone? It would be nice.
Yes, go ahead,
Yes.
please.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for the work you've done in producing not only this presentation, but also the work involved in the consultant. What I've been hearing is you've done a win-win situation. Everybody wins here. All the people that want to walk safely on this street get 3 or 4 feet. And quite frankly, even if we have to cross the street during the cross back and forth in the purple section, is better than going on the street when cars are coming. Cars with pulling boats, cars that are not paying attention. Many times I have seen mothers with children in strollers, handicapped people in their wheelchairs, children walking to school in the middle of the street, which one of the gentlemen said earlier today. I don't know what we're arguing about. This is a perfect solution. It's not a sidewalk, and we understand that. That is not feasible for the poor people who are trying to park in a tandem way. But with a 3 feet or a 4 feet walk, it's a little more secure than walking in the street when a car is coming. And there are many times that we have to cross so that a car that is not looking on the right side of the street, it is so dangerous. And there are so many people with all of these apartment buildings all the way down to the marina. What I want to say is this is a win-win situation. There's 40 years, yes, maybe, but there are a lot of people now that are more walk and exercise and want to get out. I saw runners today running in the middle of the street when a car was pulling a boat down the end to the marina, to the ramp. What I will say is it's not just one person. There are hundreds of people that would like a sidewalk, and there are tens of people, I understand, and they deserve the right to park in a tandem way. But the city has provided a solution. Why not have a win-win where we're all happy and we all get a little bit of a compromise? We don't get a sidewalk, but we get a path that we can feel comfortable and a little safer walking down versus being on the street. And when those trucks, those 450s are right at the edge, you have to walk on the street. You cannot, or you have to wait until a car passes.
They beep at you, they beep at you, you're the one, they get mad at you.
Excuse me?
Yeah, they go.
Can we go to our next question, Jared?
Zvi.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, hi, my name is Tzvi. My wife and I live east of Cordova, and I'd like to echo exactly what the previous question said. The woman just said, I don't know how many times we've had to zigzag back and forth, from one side to the other, going all the way down to the fisheries and back.
Very dangerous.
It's very, very dangerous. My wife and I were just on the Venetian Causeway that has a very similar setup in Miami. And that setup has bumpers, which is akin to, I believe, option number 2 that you're suggesting.
Yeah,
And-
and there's a green walkway in the middle for the pedestrians and, the runners and the bikers, whatever. And then there's also a side there where the water goes. It's a very
runoff.
And there's a runoff. So in one small area, you really accommodate every need. You accommodate the need for the water runoff. You accommodate the need for the runner, for the walker. And there's also there are bumpers there.
For safety.
So the cars, if they go off the road a little bit, they can feel it on their tires. I mean, they also have an area where they have these sort of rubber poles. I don't know if that would be good or not, but But there are these other sections that I just mentioned that are really terrific there.
And the other thing I'd like to add is I respect people's right to park their cars, but it's gotten so ridiculous. The trucks are all over into the swale, and they're taking advantage of the fact that the city will not enforce the parking regulations. So by all means, please use common sense and continue with this type of an assessment, and please do so. And east of Cordova sounds great because that's the main thoroughway. Most people walk east of Cordova.
Yeah, that's right. They go from that kind of the European market and where the, where the market is there and near the school, all the way down to the fisheries. But I mean, by all means, there are people also that walk all the way to US 1. So I say do whatever you can afford to do. It's good for our community. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your feedback. Jerry, next.
Hello. Hey, my name is Matthew. I live on the street, on 15th, in Plaza 15. Me personally and my wife, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to put this all together in the presentation as well. Again, this is a win-win for all of us. The majority of the people there do not speak for the hundreds and hundreds of people that live on the street in these condominiums. I walk my senior dog multiple times a day because I have to. I have no other option, day and night. Constantly, there are cars zooming down the street at 70 miles an hour. I carry a flashlight, a reflective vest. I do all of the things that the gentleman suggested that I do. And yet there are still cars doing 60 miles an hour. It has become so bad that on the weekends, I have a gun when I walk not a gun, a radar gun. And I've radar got cars going 50 miles an hour to 78 miles an hour down this street with no sidewalks, 2 cars going both ways. Where am I supposed to go? This is needed. This is needed for our community. They're not taking away parking spaces. This is a win-win for all. Just if you're upset, think about the young families in this neighborhood that have children, dogs. And if anything, sidewalks improve property values and improve neighborhoods. If you go to any realtor, they say, hey, by the way, this neighborhood has sidewalks. It's great for young children. This is encouraging young families to come to this neighborhood. Lastly, I would also like to state, at the end of the street, at 15th Street Fisheries, there are boats there. They have full-time crews that live on this boat. They don't have cars. They have no other option but to walk the street. Do we not care about our neighbors? This is an issue that affects all of us in a positive way, and I think that we should all embrace that. So thank you for your time, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Matt.
Anyone else that would like to speak, please raise your hand.
Did we get anything through the chat?
Most of the topics you guys already covered. Someone asked if you have looked into the Venetian Causeway.
Venetian Causeway?
Yeah, I think that question is similar to what the previous.
You mean with Z-Class?
The Z-Class. So
Yeah.
yes, to answer that, we did look into that option. But again, we're trying to work with everyone. That option that would install a raised separator between the travel lane and the path, that option requires more space. And we will not be able to implement it everywhere, as in the case of this tandem parking area.
Right.
So if we do install the little rubber separators between the travel lane, then the continuous driving over back and forth of the parked cars will damage them.
Or damaged cars.
Or damaged cars.
Yeah.
And it will become an issue. So in an area that's this constrained, we can implement it in areas where there is no parking, like the green areas, which is an option that, allows us to provide a wider path and install some of those treatments, but it cannot be done in areas of parking.
Assuming this project go forward, what time period? Is this a 2-year down the road, 3-year down the road?
So we expect to finalize the feasibility study before the end of this year, hopefully.
I understand the process.
Yes, but there may or may not be anything down the road, right? So it's gonna depend on the public input and the way that you guys can help us out.
Assuming it
Yeah.
goes forward, is it a 2-year, 3-year, or 4-year down the road?
Probably a couple of years down the road. But how you can help us, both people online and you guys, you can speak with your neighbors. There is 650 property owners that we send postcards to in connection to this public meeting. We had handful in here. We had about, how many?
20, 32 sign up, 22 show up.
22, so we have less than 10% of the entire population attending public meeting that has to do with solution that will affect you all, one way or the other, right? So if you can group together and you motivate your neighbors to provide a feedback, again, there is a web page in there that you can use through QR code and stuff and provide review what we're proposing and provide the feedback before we go for public meeting number 2, so that when we go and present to city commission, we know what the sentiment of the community is and whether we should advance in design or basically say, hey, we explored, it's feasible, community would prefer to keep the way, the conditions the way they are and finish it up that way. So for me personally, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make a difference whether you do or not. For me professionally, I would love to see some improvements because I believe that it's reasonable to do some improvements and provide accommodations. But again, we're not gonna pursue anything that you guys are not in agreement on. So we would love to see consensus one way or the other.
You're not gonna get it. Half people ain't gonna like it, half people like it.
And I'm not gonna speculate. What I'm saying, how you can guys help us, because we're here to help you,
Feedback.
and we're doing this in response to your concerns.
Milo says the president of the Civic Association, can I ask you 2 things? Could you send me the new presentation?
Yes.
With the alternative of crossing back and forth, which
Yes.
was not in our original presentation. And I think it's significant. I think it's significant. I think other people would think it's significant. And also, I made the suggestion to you, and I make it again publicly. Why don't you just take some of that little paint that they spray the streets with and put a 3 or 4 foot line down so people can actually visually see it? I think that would help people to understand that it's not a sidewalk, it's a very small path, and they would be able to see the impact. I don't know whether that's gonna make them happier or not happier, but I know from my own experience, telling people it's a 3 foot pathway and actually just taking some of the magic paint that goes away when the rain comes and put a little path down. And
They can measure.
Maybe
Before they see it, we can do a.
Maybe we'll have a public meeting, next time public meeting is in field and we walk it, and we basically say, hey, there we go.
I'm up for that. I would certainly be up for that, but I'm, simple, get a little paint the damn thing. And, people will say either, geez, I could live with that, or no, it's not gonna work. So visually, people can understand what it is.
I see your point.
Just
measure it.
We can do it ourselves. I can go out there, measure it, and mark it with chalk.
We have gone out there and we measured it, but we'll go to your, maybe even tonight you want to stop by there.
Yeah, Marina Del Mar, there's,
And we'll remeasure the
3
space.
feet, we're losing spaces.
Yeah.
And we're not losing 1 or 2, we're losing,
So,
I'd say 20 or 25.
Actually, you have the guys that are parking parallel too, right? Marina, in your building, there's tandem and there's a couple of people who are
You
parking
have
parallel.
tandem, and then the driveways to go in, we go side.
so we might have some photos, Artem will try to dig in some photos so we can show it to you now. It might be from that side, but we will go, me and Artem will go right now, absolutely there. I have a measuring wheel in my trunk. And it's my favorite item in the trunk. We don't carry guns, so
But you've been a real help in this. You've been very involved and reasonable, and when we get to the end, whichever way it goes, done a great job.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
And we're agreed.
And I'm sorry if I, raise my voice and stuff, it's just I'm passionate, I wanna make sure that you guys are in alignment and,
I think we're all
And,
opinionated here, so that's why we have strong
yeah.
views, and that's.
2024.
You've done very well, we haven't thrown anything out.
Yeah.
But
Thank you, Marlene.
I think our complex is gonna be the path for the
Perfect. So if you leave this one and the next one, so if you can share the screen for just 1 second and show you
We're
some.
gonna issue something. You're gonna.
You need to go talk to the Plaza 15.
Is it the one?
Yeah, so this is an example, right, of you see the double parking and
Yes.
how there is space between the 2 cars. So obviously, if someone parks like this, then
Where do you see space between that? The white truck is all the way up.
so
No, in 2 black cars, so to the right of the white truck. You see tandem parking back to back?
Yeah, sure, perfect, yeah.
Do you think
No,
there's
that's
space
the
there?
front of the,
We will go there
Yeah,
tonight,
we'll
if you
go-
wanna meet us in field.
what is that? That car isn't even a,
That looks like to be Toyota 4Runner, which is pretty big size SUV, the first one.
no, I'm saying
The
the
gray
one,
one is a Ford Ranger, small, because I know who owns it, it's got a cap on the back, and then the other one's a
Yeah, but I
small to
wouldn't,
mid-sizes.
I wouldn't count this, I would look at where tandem parking is happening, so this is 4Runner it looks like, and this one appears to be some crossover, I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, it's a mid-size, small.
But yeah, there is still a space. The best thing in here, not to speculate, is for us to meet. If you're going home, we can meet in the next 15, 20 minutes whenever we're done.
Sure.
I'm gonna give you my cell phone number, I'll go out there and we measure the space.
We would love it, and, the problem is even on the other side of the street, they have the same problem. Because they go right out to the left too.
The other thing is the speed on the street, people walking right next to the speeding. limit.
So when it comes to the speed, we took your speeding concerns and
Good.
we requested police presence. They will be
Oh, good.
scheduling some level of enforcement there. I'm not sure when. But don't be surprised if anyone in here on the call is pulled over for
They
speeding.
need to do it.
Because normally what happens, police come to us with a speeding concerns, but then when we go out there, we end up ticketing residents, right?
Wow.
Hey, the speeders of the
Yeah.
weekends, with the voters and the.
Was it you that got the one, you got pulled over for U-turn?
Yeah. But I know there's a lot of those.
So be careful what you reach for, you know how they say.
Down there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, have a good night. So I think we're done unless there are any other questions online or here, no? So what is the number that I can call either one?
One, our number, okay.
Yeah, I can take your number, so I'm gonna call you.